Hey guys, it's Seryna Myers, and I want to talk to you today about realizing just how friggin' psychic you are, frankly. But really, what we're wanting to talk about is like what is in the way of you fully claiming that for yourself. So this is something that I certainly struggled with in my early days. If you know anything about my journey, I actually shut down my gifts for a super long time. And there are a lot of reasons why we get in our heads and in our own way of being able to put this magic to work for ourselves and for the people around us. So I want to talk about the number one reason today. So if we haven't met before, I'm Seryna Myers. I am a sacred soul mentor based in Vancouver, Canada, and my mission in life is basically to help the helpers and healers and high achievers recognize these gifts so that they can put them to work in the world, where they can start to feel more purposeful, where they can rock every decision they need to make with confidence and clarity, and feel really supported through the entire process. I do this with my one-on-one clients and also in a group program that I host every year called Due North. And if you are somebody who has like an inkling that you've got some intuitive stuff going on, and let me just say, yes, you do, and you're not sure what to do about it, then you're going to want to make sure you download my free guide. I've put the link in the description of this video. Okay, so let's talk about the number one reason. A lot of people will think it's actually things like, I'm worried about what other people are going to say. I'm worried about whether this makes me like dark side, or, they equate sometimes like intuition and devil worship in super extreme cases. And all of these are like big conditionings that we have that certainly play a part. But it's actually not the number one reason why people resist actually claiming their gifts. And what the absolute real truth, number one reason is the incredible pressure that we put on ourselves to do things perfectly, especially out of the gate, and the imposter syndrome that it creates within us. Whew, big, right? It is really funny because we have been conditioned by Hollywood and by the books that we've read that people who have intuitive gifts, so that can be any of the clairs, for instance, clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, and so on, or someone who has the ability to do something like, I'm thinking about things that actually I don't know that actually exist. So let's just use the clairs as an example. We have been conditioned to believe that it's something you're born with or you're not. And that if it's not something that you recognize that you've been born with, so that you're instantly good at it, you've totally perfected it, you're rocking it out in the world, that it's just not for you. And I like to call this the myth of the sacred few. So we have this story that it's like the psychics and the healers and the gurus who are the chosen few. These are the people who have been like anointed and given the gift of sight. But what we don't recognize is actually just how much of a lie that is, because each of us has been given these gifts. The difference between us and someone who is maybe naturally inclined to it, the big difference is that they haven't shut it down. So if you think about animals, if you think about babies, they are naturally seeing things and engaging with things that us with our grown-up minds just can't fathom. We don't see it, and we actually dismiss it a lot of the times, unfortunately. And if we can instead nurture that and help somebody grow and not feel like they're making it up or that they're crazy, then it's a gift that we're able to carry on into our lives. And oftentimes the people who have this natural innate gift right from the get-go, it's often been really encouraged from a young age because it'll be the generations before them who've also had this gift. So they recognize it, they know what it is, and they know what to do with it, frankly. But that doesn't mean that the rest of us haven't been given the exact same skills. So if you think about the way like we develop any of the skills that we have, whether it's learning to walk or learning to talk or potty training, whatever, nobody is doing it at the same pace. The other part of it is that the more you do it, the better you get. So I like to think about it as like a new muscle group that you need to work out. So you can't go to the gym and expect to bench press like 300 pounds on your first day. That would be crazy and it would be really dangerous. So it's really important that you start to open things up and like really flex it and really build on it until it becomes just part of who you are and part of what you're doing in the world. And then you not only are like getting better and stronger at being able to receive and interpret the messages. And I'm going to tell you a little story about the interpreting, which is super funny. Not only that, but you're also going to have the confidence in the messages that you receive. So then you have the trust to be able to follow forward with the intuition and the intuitive messages that you get, instead of questioning it or doubting it or resisting it. Now, this becomes a whole other dance when the intuition that you're getting is something that you don't want to do, because then the resistance will show up too. We don't want to talk about that. We want to talk about that faith component, that trust component, because it's really, really big. And one of the things that I say over and over again is the only way to know is to do. So it's not something that you're going to read about in a book and then poof, it's like instantly happening. It's something that you really need to practice, that you need to commit to, that you need to show up for, and then allow it to show up for you as well. I really like to recommend too that people start with like super low stakes. So, if you're trying to find out if the person you're going on a first date with is going to be the love of your life, like that's actually some pretty high stakes, right? But it could be something like what route you take home from work if you're going to switch things up, or like where you might go on vacation, so that you open yourself up to new experiences that you wouldn't have had otherwise, but also where you set an intention of what it is that you want to create, so that you're making that declaration, you're able to receive that back, and then you get that little check mark that says, okay, cool, I didn't make this up, I set an intention, it happened, it's real. And we need to be tracking those moments of, oh, okay, it's real, so that we know that it isn't in our head. Because oftentimes, especially if we're in that earlier experience I was talking about, where we're made to think that something is in our imagination, or that it's in our head, or that we're fanciful, we have to almost like unlearn that to be able to be in this space and claim our gifts in the first place. Okay, so here's the story that I promised you. In my group program, Due North, we have an exercise where we do group readings. So someone will come in for a reading, and then everyone will share the messages that they receive for that person. And one of the students who had really been struggling with her confidence, to be honest, because it was fairly new to her and she was taking some really massive leaps in the program, she just shook her head when it was her turn, and she said, I don't know, man, like, I just keep seeing a cabbage. And she felt like she was getting it wrong. And the person who she was reading for just started to laugh and said, yeah, I know, I really need more self-care. And she was like, what? And the funny thing is that in this person's kind of community, they have this, emoji language essentially. And so when someone is neglecting their self-care, they will send each other the little cabbage emoji as a way to give them the nudge that they need to take care of themselves. But it was so easy for her to be, first of all, frustrated because this was the only thing that she was getting. And second of all, to question, like, what the hell does a cabbage have to do with anything? But because she didn't censor it, it ended up being the exact message that this person needed. And we do this all the time. When I was first training in mediumship, I actually had a similar thing where one of my first sitters, I kept having this song play in my head that I dismissed as just an earworm. I didn't even think that it could be a message. And it turned out it was very specific to her child. So it's really important that when we kind of take the responsibility of someone who is bringing forward messages for other people, that we are not being a filter. We are not censoring what comes through, that we're just sharing lovingly, openly, and clearly. And that takes the pressure off too, because then you're not worried about, am I getting this right? You're not questioning it. You're just like, I am just going to share. I am just going to be of service. And it might not make sense to me. I'm going to trust that it makes sense to them. And in the event that it doesn't, and sometimes it doesn't, I am going to trust enough in my gifts to know that eventually this is going to land for that person. All of this takes the pressure off. If you're not thinking about yourself as some divine holy instrument, and you're just, the speaker that the message is coming out of, there's no longer a need to be perfect. You just share what you see, what you feel, what you're experiencing, or what you hear. So when you're not so worried about, getting it right, doing it right, or being perfect, you don't have to worry so much about the outcome in the same sense, because now you're not holding these impossible standards to yourself, particularly at the beginning of working with your gifts. You're able to just be the instrument. You are not the message, you are the messenger. So you don't have to take that same kind of responsibility, which takes all that pressure off, which means you don't have to go into that imposter syndrome cycle where you think this is not for you. Because I can tell you with 100% certainty, every single person that I have tapped into with helping to awaken their gifts or to recognize the things that are in their way, every single one of them has been able to recognize just how friggin' intuitive they are. This was like our divine gift. We were given free will and intuition. So it's really just up to us about how we're going to use it. So if this is something that resonates for you, if you have been thinking, yeah, I'm going to want to explore this intuition thing, but I have no idea where to start, you don't have to go and like buy the books and like watch the 800 TED Talks. I've created a free PDF for you. It's 18 pages, quick and dirty. Boom. Gives you everything that you need to get started. It's called the Inner Compass Mapping Method. And I have actually posted the link to that in the description of this video so that it's super easy for you to get started. Because the more of us that are doing this, the more normalized this becomes, so that if we do have those other stories about what people are going to think, that stops becoming a thing, because it just becomes, intuition becomes as natural as all the other senses that we've got. And frankly, why wouldn't it be? Because it's just the same. Okay, that is my love note to you today. I hope this finds you well. And again, don't forget to go ahead and download that PDF because it's pretty juicy and it's a great place to start. Mwah. Okay, have a great rest of your day.